Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another proRevenge Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe, and click on notifications so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, sometimes when you have problems with your neighbor, you need to play the long game. Let's jump right in. This is a long story, so settle back and relax. I love this sub, and I have taken to asking friends about great revenge stories. This one comes from my boss, who lives in the small town where it occurred. To set the stage, many decades ago, Barney and Betty immigrated from Europe and bought a farm. A few years later, they had kids and sponsored Wilma from the old country as a nanny. She met Fred, a local boy, fell in love, and they got married. Wilma stayed on as the nanny, and Fred worked as a farmhand. Their kids and Barney and Betty's kids grew up together, and it was pretty much a big blended family. Years go by, and Barney and Betty decide to sell the farm fields to Farmer Frank, but kept the land the house was on. They made enough off the sale to build a nice new house and rezone the property lines. They broke up the lot into two parcels, one for the new house and one for the existing house, which they gifted to Fred and Wilma as a recognition of their years of dedicated and loving service. Both houses shared a well and a septic field. More time went by. Barney and Betty passed away, and their house was inherited by their son, Bam Bam. Fred also passed away, and Wilma stayed in the house. She was an angel. Everyone in the town knew and loved her. She was like the town's grandmother. She was active in the church and liked nothing more than crocheting booties for anyone in town that had a baby. Sadly, Wilma passed away too, and her house was inherited by her daughter, Pebbles. She was well established in a nearby metropolitan city and made the decision to sell the house. And so it begins. To give you a better idea of the setup, here is a rough diagram. The parcel for sale is the yellow bit, which backs onto protected parkland and is bordered by Bam Bam's land and Farmer Frank's fields. It was purchased by a builder from the city, who we'll call Dick. The name suits him. He wanted it as a country getaway, as he already had a place in the city. He got approval to improve the place, and his plans were to convert the barn into a multi-car garage with a man cave and an apartment in what was the loft. He started by tearing down the house, with plans to replace it with a bigger, more modern house. The house was torn down and the new build was started. The lower part of the yellow represents a very narrow driveway. Between that driveway and Farmer Frank's field was a drainage culvert, so the contractors started parking their vehicles on Bam Bam's lot. Bam Bam asked the contractors not to do it, but they didn't stop, so he approached Dick and the conversation didn't go well. Dick was an entitled big shot, dealing with what he thought was a country bumpkin. To give you an idea, Dick once went to the local diner and asked for the wine list. He was aggressive and disrespectful, and this pretty much set the tone for all future interactions. Bam Bam finally had enough. These contractor trucks were tearing up his ground, so one weekend he built a fence along the border between his house and Dick's. It wasn't a complicated fence. He just got a buddy with a post hole digger on his bobcat, sunk posts, and strung planks between them. This caused no end of trouble with the build. There was no room to park in the yellow for the contractors without getting in each other's way, and they couldn't park in the driveway, which was only wide enough for one vehicle at a time. The contractors were pissed off. They had a long walk from the road to the build site and had to carry tools and equipment back and forth. Either that or take turns dropping off materials, waiting hours for the carpenters to finish unloading the lumber so that the plumbers could unload the pipes. Dick was furious and came stomping over to Bam Bam demanding that he dismantle the fence. Bam Bam told him to go to hell. Then, a day later, Bam Bam saw that someone had removed some of the fence and the contractor trucks were back on his land. Okay, thought Bam Bam, let's play. The following weekend, Bam Bam irrigated the area where the contractors were parking. Irrigated it long and continuously. He probably had to get a water delivery to make it happen, as the well had a limited capacity. On Monday, the first contractor to arrive turned off Dick's driveway to go through the field and immediately sank up to his axles in mud. Did I mention that Bam Bam owned the local service station and knew every tow truck company within 100 miles? As it turned out, everyone they called was too busy to pull the truck out, and they had to call a tow truck from the city almost 2 hours away. You can see how the relationship between Bam Bam and Dick became somewhat less than neighborly. Time went by and Dick's house was completed. It was a low-maintenance setup with interlocking brick over the compound, tall hedges separating Dick from Bam Bam. They kept out of each other's way, but they certainly weren't pals. Dick's kids would come up on the weekends and have a party now and then, but Bam Bam put up with it. One issue that arose was when Dick decided to fill the small swimming pool that he had installed. This drew the well dry and caused some sand to be pulled into the water treatment equipment. When Bam Bam approached Dick about the cost of the repair via email, Dick basically replied that it was Bam Bam's problem. The same thing happened when the septic holding tank needed to be pumped. Bam Bam offered to split the cost of the pumping, and Dick refused to part with a dime. Years passed, and Dick decided to list the house for sale. That's when Bam Bam made his move. He cut the water and capped the septic line leading from Dick's house. Then he informed the real estate agent of what he had done. Well, that introduced a thunderstorm for sure. There's no way Dick could sell a house that had no water or any way to dispose of waste. He couldn't build a septic field on his property, it was too small. Dick approached Farmer Frank to buy some of his land, but he was rebuffed. His only option would have been to install a septic holding tank, but the only place to put it would have been right in the middle of his compound, and septic tanks can be aromatic. It would also have meant removing the in-ground pool. Dick tried to argue in court that he was entitled to access to the well water and the septic field, but Bam Bam won, arguing that Wilma and Fred were given water and septic as a courtesy and that there was no contractual obligation to provide Dick either well water or septic access. There was nothing in the deed to Wilma and Fred that could be grandfathered in, and Dick's emails refusing to pay for maintenance to either system was the nail in the coffin. The property sat vacant and unusable for months. The price dropped through the floor, and the few people that expressed any interest in the property approached Bam Bam with varying offers of cash to restore service. Bam Bam declined. No offers were made to Dick for the house. Finally, Dick did receive an offer from a numbered corporation, an offer that was about a quarter of the asking price, as is, with a statement that the buyer was aware that there was no water or septic service to the property. Without much choice, Dick accepted the offer. And that's how Bam Bam bought himself a beautiful modern country home at a steal of a price. He reattached the water and septic in an afternoon and moved his furniture down the driveway. Bam Bam rented his old house out for extra money and had the numbered company negotiate with himself for an arrangement for perpetual use of the well and septic, thereby jacking the value of the house up by a factor of 4. Later, if he decides to sell it, he'll be making a massive profit. Bam Bam now enjoys a country paradise and is the social king of the hill in his town. All because Dick decided to be a dick. In story number 2, when a cousin keeps pranking our OP with her biggest fear, it is time for a little payback. Okay, so my cousin is a prankster. She likes telling jokes, and one of her favorites is during the holidays, she likes to tell me my uncle, her dad, is coming to pick me up. If I'm being honest, my uncle is not a nice man. He yells at me and everyone for everything. He lies about people to make them look bad and him look good. He makes fun of me for being overweight. He's very verbally abusive. It's gotten to the point where I've pretty much gray rocked him, which is basically no contact. My cousin's favorite prank is to tell me that my uncle is coming to pick me up to take me to a family gathering. I usually avoid going to them if I know he's going to be there. And 2 hours in the car with him, that's literally hell. So a couple weeks ago, she lied and told me he called and was gonna come pick me up for my birthday. I felt like I was having a panic attack. I remember crying, hyperventilating. I was pacing back and forth trying to figure some way out of it. And yes, visiting him is just that bad. Then she started laughing. I told her that's not funny. She knows how I feel about the man. She said, "Don't you feel better now that you know he's not actually coming?" I haven't forgotten that. It's been 2 weeks. I've had enough of that prank. I wanted to prank her to kinda get her back. I remembered her biggest fear: clowns. She's been scared to death of clowns since she was a kid. So I had a friend that's over 6 feet tall dress up in a scary-looking clown suit. I told her I got a free dinner for 2 coupon for my birthday to her favorite restaurant and wanted to share it with her to bait her. We left and I had my clown in place. The plan was to stop in the middle of this old rural road and stop the car at a specific spot, where my friend was hiding. Everything went to plan. My friend parked his old junk car in the ditch on the side of the road. I stopped and said, "We need to check it out, see if they need help." While she's looking near it and looking around for the owner, I sneak back to my car. My clown runs out of an old barn and straight for us. She saw him, froze, and started screaming. She ran to my car, but I sped off before she could get in. I didn't abandon her. I just drove over a hill so she couldn't see me while I watched the show. She started running, the clown chased her, and she screamed for help. He caught up to her and she fell down and started crying. My clown friend laughed and told her it was a joke. I drove back and started laughing with him. She told me that wasn't funny, and I repeated what she told me, the "Don't you feel better now that you know the clown isn't going to get you" line. She screamed and yelled the whole car ride at me that I could have scared her to death. I told her, that's how I feel when she tells me that my uncle is coming to pick me up. This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then please hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.